Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the viewers who've sort of shared their Friday evening with us. And today we are going to talk about a very evocative subject. I'm Vinita Agrawal, and this is Winter Retreat, Winter Winds, and Poetry. Winter is a very, very evocative subject because it means different things to different people. For a person like me, living in Bombay in the tropics, winter is something, snow is something to pine for. Winter is almost non-existent. But in the same country, in Delhi, in Kashmir, in the in the Himalayas of India, winter is very severe, and it means a completely different. It evokes a completely different feeling for those people living in the north. But we're also joined by some wonderful people who are also going to share their views on winter and poetry on winter and what winter means to them. Particularly, we're joined by Fiona Simpson, who lives in a cold land. I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean that geographically. She's from the UK, and that's almost in the northern hemisphere, so it's very cold there. And I'm sure winter evokes certain different feelings for her. We also have Sudeep Sen, who lives in Delhi, so definitely winter is something else for him. Cold and hard bite of winter in Delhi. And Abhay K from Madagascar, who will, I think, give us a completely different aspect of winter because he lives in the tropics of Africa. Um, so I was just ruminating over this winter thing and how poetry responds to winter and how do poets respond to winter. And I wanted to start this line with start this show with a few lines by Annie Finch, when she says, "Vines, leaves, roots of darkness, growing now, you are uncurled and cover our eyes with the edge of winter sky. Leaning over us in icy stars, vines, leaves, roots of darkness, growing, come with your seasons, your fullness, your end." So, like I said, people who live in the northern hemisphere also pine for winter to end because it means a lot of snow and a lot of hardships, perhaps. And Billy Collins, in his poem titled Winter, says, "A little heat in the iron radiator, the dog breathing at the foot of the bed, and the windows shut tight, encrusted with hexagons of frost." Fiona, I'd like to really ask you about what winter means to you and how has your poetry responded to this season?
Well, winter to me, thank you, Vinita, means cold, but above all, darkness. Winter is the time when we have really short days because, we are far in the north, and so the difference between a day in November when it gets dark at 3:30 in the afternoon and a day in high summer when it gets dark at 10:30 in the evening is enormous. So for us, winter is primarily a long haul without much sunlight and without much sunshine either. Possibly for that reason, I'm personally quite obsessed by the light, and I don't write very much about winter. Although I like winter in some ways, I like, the comforts of home. I find it a time of closure and absence, not a time of, strong sensation or pleasure. I don't know if that's something that rings true for maybe the north of India, or
that's
true.
That
we don't have very spectacular snow either in Britain. We're not like our neighbours on the same latitude, like Norway and Sweden, who have spectacular winters. We don't. We just have grey and black.
Would you like to read us something on light, since you kind of fascinated with the concept of light of winter?
Well, can I read you a poem that I translated with the author Jan Kaplinsky? It's about Estonia, and although obviously Estonia does have proper snow and so on,
oh yes,
for me, it's something very familiar about this kind of winter.
Right.
So he says, Tallinn is cold as the whole of Estonia. I put on warm underwear, woolen socks, and a heavy Irish sweater. With a numb hand, I try to write, giving myself consolation. The heart's still warm. And abroad, they say warm words about the Estonian economy and its future. When will these warm words reach the people who are too poor to buy meat, to buy an electric heater, and pay for hot water? Thought moves sluggishly, like a lizard in a frosty morning, or an autumn fly on the north window. We go shivering towards the rosy future, together with late lizards and flies, with new Kurdish refugees, their unborn babies, and their poems, somewhere in a past or a future prison. Because, of course, that was written in 1995, very soon after the collapse of the Iron Curtain and Estonia's liberation from Russian domination.
That's correct. That was wonderful. And I think thoughts move sluggishly like a lizard. That line was particularly representative of this entire mood of a very severe winter where you don't even feel like moving.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And in fact, I discovered a few lines of your own, Fiona, on the internet. That poetry arrived in search of me. I don't know where it came from winter or a river.
I would absolutely love to claim those lines, but I'm afraid they're by Pablo Neruda.
Yeah. Sadly, I was just going to remind.
They're not even.
I was going to remind Fiona. You're in already won the Nobel Prize for that.
All right, but this is somewhere okay. All right, my apologies. Okay, Sudeep, how is winter?
But what Fiona did really beautifully. I mean, one of my favorite lines is Shelley's "Ode to the West Wind." That classic line. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? Far behind. I mean, it's just such a classic line. It could be Neruda too. I mean, that's how he writes. But just that line. So metrically, it's very, very different.
Yeah,
and I have to show this. I have to show this off. This is Fiona's selected poems. Shelley. It's favorite classic.
Wonderful.
Lovely, lovely, slim selections by contemporary poets.
Wow.
Of other poets. It's a beautiful series.
And actually, that's a really interesting point you make, Sudeep, because, of course, Ode to the West Wind, obviously it's about a wind. And if you think about another famous winter poem, British winter poem, is Ted Hughes, about the house being far out at sea, the house in a storm, the house being far out at sea all night. And I think we do tend to write about, storms and wind because that's the only sort of exciting winter weather we have. Otherwise, we do have this kind of grey null. There's a Sylvia Plath poem when she was living with Ted Hughes in Devon, where she talks about sheep sadly looking back at her. And actually, I've been feeding my sheep this morning, and they're kind of just standing around in the mud, looking sad. I mean, it is a strange time of year in Britain. It really does feel like, hibernation. Everything is in dormition. Everything is switched off.
Except that when British poets cross the waters and they're in Europe and they're writing about winter, it's quite different. I mean, the Romantics have.
Yeah.
Romantics have, but they're talking about British winter, but in a completely different through a different lens.
Yes.
I mean, Shakespeare's done it. All the Romantics have done it.
And that's interesting.
Stephen Romer, I remember from Plato's Ladder. I think that was his first book, Plato's Ladder. Yeah, it's all couplets, and there's one stunning one there. I wish I'd taken it out. And
how is the winter in Delhi, Sudeep?
January 1st was 1.1 degree. It was a shock. You see, the thing is, Fiona is still, we're waiting for Fiona and Peter to come and Delhi. She doesn't fly, you see. She's a lady to the manor born, so she only takes carriages and trains.
Oh, that's right.
She has a problem with flying, so that's a different thing. But the fact is, getting to India will require a long distance train ride. But because we only have about a month of winter. Our houses are really geared for the summer, so it's open and we have, stone floors and things. So when the winter comes, it's not centrally heated. You really, it's
That
cold.
is the
Everything
thing.
is,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
In fact,
completely see your point. The
it's
central
warmer
heating is
outside
absolutely.
than
Yeah.
inside the house. But
Would you
but
like to share?
oh, do
Would you
I?
like to
Yeah,
share?
poetry. Yeah, I mean, I can write on any seasons. It's all in the head.
Okay,
You know. Because
that's
I
great.
live in a very, very controlled temperature. I live in a room. Basically, I spend 20 hours in one room, which is where I'm at the moment.
Well, in the
So it's
lockdown,
either
I
it's
think
air
the
conditioned.
story of
No, it's
our
either
life.
it's air conditioned or the heater is on. So to me, there's a constant 20, 21 degree temperature. But winter, yeah, this is titled Winter. Couched on crimson cushions, pink bleeds gold, and red spills into one's heart. Broad leather keeps time, calibrating different hours and different zones, unaware of the grammar that makes sense. Only random woofs and snores of two distant dogs on a very cold night clears fog that is unresolved. New plants wait for new heat to grow, to mature. An old cane recliner contains poetry for peace, woven text keeping comfort in place. But it is the impatience of want that keeps equations unsolved, heavy, translucent, vaporous, split red by mother tongues. Winter's breath is pink.
Wonderful, Sudeep. That's an iconic Sudeep Sen poem, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, indeed.
There is a companion poem to it. Do you want me to read that? It
Yes,
works
please.
very much. It works very much. There was a point early on in my writing life. I was writing all these companion poems,
Okay.
largely inspired by Milton. Like Allegro and El Penseroso.
Yes.
Similarly, there's always a dialogue. So this one's called Banyan. And of course, we know what banyan is. It's such a fascinating tree with all its tertiary roots and so on. And as a child, I would play hide and seek with my friends in banyan trees. And this particular banyan tree is not very far from Delhi. This is in Sanskriti Foundation. As you enter, there's this beautiful, beautiful big tree. But it partly also remembers my grandparents' house where there was a beautiful banyan tree, a big I don't know how many years old it was. It was before even the house was built, so it must be over 100 years old. Banyan. As winter secrets melt with the purple sun, what is revealed is electric. Notes tune unknown scales, syntax alters tongues, terracotta melts white, banyan ribbons into armatures as branch roots twist, meeting soil in a circle. Circuits glazed under cloth carry alphabets for a calligrapher's nib, italicized in invisible ink, letters never posted, cartographer's map uncharted. As phrases fold, so do veils. Thank you.
I was just saying that Abhay, coming to Abhay, is he with us right now, or have we lost him for a while? But I just wanted to share with you viewers. Yes, Fiona.
If we've lost him for a while, would you like me to read my pair of snow poems from my new book?
Yes, please do.
So snow is, as I said, really rare in this country, but occasionally it happens. So here's a pair of poems. They're called Pneumonian Phenomenon. This is Pneumonian. Snow falls and fills a valley, and under its white roof a sleeper dreams. Snow is falling secretly for her alone. On and on in darkness it falls like something speaking noiselessly into silence. Something that's all alone in silence, can't hear itself, can't feel grass or stones or the small branches it conceals. Even in the sleeper's dreams, falling snow cannot feel the world it longs to touch and misses, falling through its own cold embrace on and on in the dark. The sleeper dreams snow is falling on her pillow as wide, wet words. The night speaks about itself. Snow speaking the words for night.
Beautiful, Fiona, and there's such amazing cadence in that piece, especially that line.
So that's
beautiful.
And then there's phenomenon, of course, because I did study Kant at university, so you have to have one and the other.
Yes.
So you'll hear while they're there. Phenomenon. Snow falls and fills a valley, till the house fills with snow light, more clear, more exact than the usual musky daylight, where a little tenderness waits like penciled hatching just to the side of things. That favourite chair, or the crooked table polished by dailiness, is laid bare. Snowlight coming in from all sides looks straight through the prism, frankly curious. There is no myth, it says, to equal this account of surfaces and presences. It's an old story, but we live in it, you and I, the snowlight mentions, as it comes in, making itself at home among the chairs and the small piles of books.
That was lovely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. Very beautiful. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you very much. I just wanted to engage with Abhay. Abhay, can you hear me? I just wanted to mention that Abhay is on a journey. He's in a car right now, but he has good internet, so he can sort of be with us as well. Abhay, can you hear me? Am I audible to you? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So you've had assignments. I was saying that you've had assignments in Moscow, which is a really, really cold place. So you've had some real authentic experience of winter. Could you share your winter experiences with us and maybe some poetry? I'm not sure. Can you hear me, Abhay?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, I'm not sure whether I'm audible to him. Abhay, can you hear me? Abhay is in Madagascar, actually, but he's a diplomat who's had postings in Moscow. So I thought he might.
Yes.
He might. All right. So we'll wait for Abhay to be. Can you hear me? No, I think well, let's just move on to another section of this discussion about winter. Winter is also all about food, you see, because almost half the world celebrates Christmas, and Christmas is very much a winter festival. Unlike India, where we have festivals all around the year in almost every season. So winter is very representative of those roast turkeys and plum cakes and Christmas puddings and all kinds of delicious things. I was just trying to gather some information on this. I came across a little poem by Helen Maria Williams titled "Mrs. K for sending me a plum cake on Christmas in Paris." A cake that tells of vanished bliss, a cake that conjures up to view the early scenes when life was new, when memory knew no sorrows past, and hope believed in joys that last. Mysterious cake whose folds contain life's calendar of bliss and pain, that speaks of friends forever fled and wakes the tears I love to shed. A rhyming verse there, but I found it really evocative. So, would you like to share your experiences of, either poetry as either winter as a festival, or winter, the foods of winter, or a particular memory of your mother baking a cake, or anything related to that? This is open to all of you. Sudeep, what about you? Would you have any winter food memories?
Lots, lots. I have food memories all the time. Love food and wine. You know,
Oh,
I
great.
don't know how people go on a diet. Food is essential to living. So
Absolutely.
this is an old poem. My food, of course, is initially all Indian food. So no
Yes.
plum cakes and things at all.
Right, right.
So this one is called Indian Dessert. It's from a sequence of 20 erotic poems, and it's actually a recipe poem. So if you follow this particular poem, you can cook a cracking bowl of gajar ka halwa. Very useful when I was a bachelor. So this was a very good poem to read to prospective people I was going to date, because people love it when you cook. It's a trait partners tend to like.
That's a trade secret.
Must be, because I've stopped cooking too. Indian dessert. Clumps of wet smoke simmer in the pan and slowly lift to caress the outline of your breasts as you cook, stirring spices in carrot, milk, and cream. Ingredients that conjure recipes of hunger and passion. As you melt sugar and butter and gently stroke flakes of grated almond shavings, more clumps of perfume smoke permeate through the silk of your shirt, now transparent in heat, painting the outer circles of the nipples to an hardened edge, tasting the sweet skin, the surface of the crinkled base, to a creamed mouthful of untampered delicacy.
Wow. That was almost like that was a very sensual way of cooking, I should say.
Well, this is all happening. It's just happening. I just merely recorded it in metrical
Okay. Well,
couplets.
wonderful. Great
And the
observation.
reason the reason it was in couplets is because it's about duality. It's about everything is in pairs. You see again.
Yes, it's all about the
Yeah.
pair. Yes. Fiona, any memories of
Well,
winter cake?
winter cooking in Britain is, well, not plum pudding really, but it is, especially a few years ago before we became healthy and before British cooking had this kind of renaissance and became a major recreation and very international, full of fusion and so on. British cooking was very steamed and fried and
Dude.
so
Yeah.
yeah, dodgy. So lots of childhood memories of coming home to the smell of baking and pastry, and also we were talking about for people who follow Christian calendars. So that big tradition that we have, which is called Stir Up Sunday, which is the first Sunday in Advent, so sort of 4 weeks before.
I think you're frozen.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now
Yeah.
it's
Now,
okay.
now, now it's
good.
okay.
It's all right.
But it was also called Stir Up Sunday because that was when people made their Christmas puddings and Christmas cakes, and then they would stir them once a week for the whole month. So they kind of got richer and richer. So, but I haven't written a poem about that. But I'll read you Daily Bread, because also this slightly goes back to what we were saying about light before, Vinita.
Yes. Yes.
So
Wonderful.
Daily Bread. This is from the catch.
Okay.
Daily Bread. Sometimes it's just the daily bread of thought, just invisible, seeing itself. A cup of coffee carried to a window seat where varnished woodwork shines in the morning light. Sometimes small things reveal to you how you're alive and how you live. Sometimes there's no remission, no trumpet, no voice of God in Levantine splendor, only this blur of steam like a breath, and the word lying below it, waiting to be spoken. You can't quite make it out. What is it? Humming all day, out of hearing.
Lovely. If
What a
smells
cat.
could talk, that's what they would say. Yeah. It's like fragrance talking. Abhay, can you hear us? We'd like to hear something from you.
Hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
now we can. Tell us about what winter means to you. Tell us about Moscow and Madagascar and everything.
Well, I've spent 5 years in Russia, so both Moscow and St. Petersburg. And
Yeah.
winter means creativity for me because it's very dark, and then you can stay inside indoors, and uh, you can be creative. You can. I mean, when I was in Moscow and St. Petersburg, I did lots of paintings. So
Oh,
my artwork basically flourished in the darkness, and also I think the warmth of art, which either literature or painting that keeps you warm in these months. Uh, I think winter is a memorable time for me. But now, in Madagascar, it's a completely different. It's summer actually because it's in the southern hemisphere.
right. Would you, would you like to read something for us? We'd like to hear some
I
of
would
your
like
poetry.
to,
Yes.
not my own poetry, but I would read some of my translations of Kalidas, who has written a
Welcome.
whole collection called Ritu Samharam, which
Ritu
is
Samhara.
yeah, it's a selection from Ritu Samhar from winter. I mean, there are two seasons actually in India. One is frost and one is winter. So
Right.
frost, I'd read a one or two from each one of these from by Kalidas.
Yes, please do.
Young women rub kala keya perfumed powder on their bodies and make up their faces blossoming like lotus with the remains of the laksha juice, and give their hair a finishing touch with the incense of kakaguru as they get ready to meet their lovers in the feast of love. Are pale from weariness. Young women are calm and content with their amorous desires fulfilled. Feeling their lips ache from love bites, they fear laughing out loud. And these are two from Frost. I'll also read from Winter.
Yes,
Wives
please.
aching for love, their mouths perfumed with wine flower, retire to their bedchambers filled with fragrance of aguru incense, carrying betel rolls, chaplets, and sensuous perfumes. Philandering husbands who are spurned and reproached are forgiven, their wrongs forgotten by the young wives thirsting for love, upon seeing them trembling with guilt and fear. In the stillness of the long winter nights, the lustful lovers are ruthless in love play. As the night approaches its end, the young women limp slowly, drained, thighs hurting. I think I'll leave as this.
Okay, thank you so much. There were some very intriguing words used by Kalidasa. I think some interesting herbs and intriguing, perfumes that he mentions, and I think we need to look him up as contemporary poets. We need to understand that better. Winter is also about feeling very cozy and keeping warm and wearing mittens and pullovers and soft shawls and just sitting near the fireplace, roasting nuts, and sort of that whole atmosphere of winter is also something that I used to always want. Even if I was living in a hot place like Mumbai or some plains in India, I would still want a fireplace in the house because it just seems so romantic. And it's such a cozy little place to be in. But of course, now I know better. I would rather have the fireplace. Sure. But just to bring out this whole notion of something, people bonding and sort of getting close to each other and having these long nights and short days of winter spent near the fireplace. So it's also about love and bonding. Winter, I guess, is also about love and bonding. And in fact, I remember writing these lines: roaring fireplace, warm cottage, intimacy, the color of a fluttering monarch. And I also read Timothy Liu on winter. He says, how many months on a kitchen calendar drop like frozen flies? The flu season at its peak, followed by a train of magic markered triple X's, nights we'd spent apart. So, Fiona, I'd like to come to you with poems of intimacy and love and bonding, perhaps. Can you hear me?
I have one I'd like to read. In fact, I have two. One is well, it's quite foodie actually, about bonding, and one is about a cozy cottage, just as you were talking about.
Right.
So the love one is Come Down, Welcome, it's called. And the epigraph is the first line of that poem, Love by George Herbert, Love Baby, Welcome.
Okay.
It's called Welcome. Your whole wheat grain, savoury as food for thought, redeems me time after time when I break myself beside you. Break myself into your, no, not milk, your comb-flecked honey. Forgive me, I'm still not finished at your table. Even your impatience says a grace to my daily bread, which you are, warm on my tongue, flour dust on my hands. Good morning, loaf.
How beautiful. How utterly beautiful.
Gosh, everybody's reading erotic poems today. What's going on?
I didn't mean it to be erotic. I meant it to be emotional, but because it's about the material, because it's about food, I think it becomes erotic, doesn't it? You know.
I mean, even in Madagascar, when Kalidas was read, the wind picked up. And we can, I think it must be the Indian government trying to mute.
And this is cob. Cob is, the traditional cottages in England. Obviously, some of them built with stone, but some of them built with mud, strengthened with wheat and horse's hair and baked into wooden structure, cob. Mm-hmm. The way we used to live in the old house, a house whose thick walls curved like the living flanks of beast. Do you remember? Curving walls, the deep-set windows like a kind of hope, their light white as the whitewashed walls that someone made from living things, from straw and hair, and took the teeming mud salted with living things in tiny constellations which hung round us there, baked with the dreaming hair of horses, the corn stalks that crackled underfoot and in the hand as they were cut. The mysteries of domesticity are also sacrifice, each kitchen knife shining like joy. They took the mud and baked it as you might a loaf made from corn, because the crust of things rises and falls like breath in the flanks of beasts.
Yes. There's that element of that rustic element in the poem is extremely attractive.
Thank
you. Sudeep, would you like to?
This particular book is an extraordinary book, actually, which just inspired me to write a lot. There's a poem which it's a poem which is actually authored by Fiona and me. Really, I mean, I wrote it, and then every alternate stanza is in italics, which is sections from Come Down. So
Actually, that last one was from The Catch, but I think these two books are like a pair. So, so you're right.
Companions, yes, yes. Wow.
So do you have? We should maybe we should read that one.
Yes. Where have I put it on my computer?
I'll find it on the computer as well.
Will you?
But you need it. You need it as well because you need to read the italics.
Yeah, we can have a jugalbandi between you, the two of you. That would be really nice.
I wonder where I've put it.
It's maybe under New Humanist.
No. Oh, great idea. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
Me too.
No problem.
You remember when it was in, Sudeep?
Summer, I think. Something about speaking in silence, was it?
Yeah, I know, but oh, here we are. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, here we are. Got it.
Okay. Yeah, got it. So so every fourth stanza basically is a quote or sections from her latest book, Come Down. But when I read the book, I was always sort of remembering it as calm down, because the year has been like that. And anyway, we should just read the poem and see how it goes.
Please, yes.
Speaking in silence. Breathtaking weather surrounds us in these dark times. I find calm in Come Down, misreading your book's title as Calm Down, as if I'm seeking balance for us and others we love. Island weather can be promiscuous. Indian songbirds outside my study tweet. Pigs on your English down grunt, texting a common tongue.
Come down as everything breaks off mid-story. Tractor tracks, a bucket at a gate, traces of the ones who left just this morning, centuries ago.
It was centuries ago, yet I know this place well. We have walked together in the slurry and squelch. In the coppice, I picked a driftwood piece, sculpt edged by wind, water, a Paleolithic talisman I left on your rustic kitchen window. Perhaps it still lies there, still, exactly there, on the sunlit sill.
And water shakes old terrors loose. You could take this with you your whole life. Now everything begins to move and everything stays where it is.
We speak in poetic phrases punctuated by dactyls and trochees, inundating line breaks with half rhymes. This is the only language left, our private renga, ancient codes dictating our syntax, not our accent. As the world pandemically wrestles with the dry heat of disease and pestilence, profiteers pry, pilfer.
Dry season in the heart. You have to pray, although you can't. But still the vowels of the magnolia wrench themselves upward.
Marigold, magnolia will bloom. Nature will dance perennially, fine-tuned in its horror and beauty. It is we who do not heed its signs, understand its corpuscle conduct. We have long lived in lockdown, social distance in solitary silos, mutating metaphors spilling everywhere, defying state and statelessness.
Flowers crowd out of branches that are holding dark air up. Everything is and knows it is wild equinox. Everything to come hides its face among the shaking tongues.
I'm certain we will continue walking together and alone, now and in the afterlife. One's only guaranteed a lifetime at most. Our silent speech stretches like white, its colors radiating beyond its spectrum bandwidth, beyond its infrared ultraviolet, beyond infinite frequencies. Whether it is chakras, sacred science, or just human belief.
Time folds into another century where you come walking down with them into the future they won't arrive at. Such a tender rite it is that brings us home to the light.
That vanishes and returns. Shall we return to Aleph's source, to Oxhead's hieroglyph, to Fountainhead's Genesis, to a child on a rope swing? Are we on a robotic treadmill on a journey mapped out for us? Do we script our destiny unlike nature's rolling hill rains, unlike heat, dust, pestilence? For now, let us come down for calm, to pause, reflect, love.
Sudeep, in my version, it finishes. It's fascinating because I've been reading a different version from the one, or
yes, you have been. But let me just finish it with your. It finishes. I'll just go back. Maybe go back. For now, let us come down for calm, to pause, reflect, love. You were always here in the body's forethought, in its heft, heat and juice in the smile of a stranger who will never speak your name.
That's incredible. It's phenomenal. What you just read was phenomenal. It's such a vast and encompassing poem of, right from the lockdown to solitude to relationships to loneliness and then reaching out and nature and everything. It was beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you, Fiona and Sudeep, both of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
for
and it
that.
actually also maps a very, very Indian Delhi landscape with a very rural sort of Welshish landscape.
Absolutely. I could do that.
Right, and of course, my original poem is set somewhere completely different. It's set in Australia, and it's about my father. It's not about a lover. It's about my father I never met. So Sudeep has translated it into something completely different.
Okay.
That's the beauty of poetry, how it sort of travels and the context change, and yet it's sort of meaningful in any given context. If the language is tightly wrought, you can pour it into different kind of vessels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Abhay, we are waiting for you. You're looking very, very serious.
Abhay, would you like to share something else with us about maybe the landscapes of winter or the food or whatever, anything that you have for us today?
I think it's winter reminds me of all the particularly from Bihar, reminds me of this Makar Sankranti.
Exactly.
And chuda.
Oh yes,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah, also my mother cooking like something we call pitta. I don't know. It's like it's like dumplings, steamed dumplings. So winter is like is very special for us. Also, lots of I think these in Bihar we have something called litti. So litti chokha, a season where you have hot litti chokha. So I think in India, I mean particularly winter is associated with lots of mouth-watering food, which I really miss being far away.
Okay. Absolutely. Yes, that's what I was saying in the beginning, that winter means different things to different people depending on where they are and where they live, and how the culture of that land has sort of devised its own customs of food and rituals and things like that. So, and really, for us, particularly in India, where we have winter itself is treated in different ways by different regions of the country. You have Pongal, and then you have the Makar Sankranti and Uttarayan in Gujarat with the kite festival, and those kind of festivities are also somewhat related to winter, so to speak.
It might be
So
useful to sort of alert you guys. You may know about this, but in the Indian subcontinent, we actually technically, officially have 6 seasons.
yes,
6.5 actually, if you split winter into frost and winter, as
yeah, the
as
Hema,
portrayed by
yeah,
Kalidas. But it's
yeah,
so in the West we have 4 seasons, where we have 6 seasons, which is we have pre-winter and monsoon as the two separate seasons. We have specific names for them, and
yes,
there's so
apart
much
from yeah,
poetry, marking the seasons. And
yeah,
modern poetry in classical Indian music, weather and season and the time of the day is essential for the notation of the music people sing. So you can sing a morning rag, or a winter rag, or a summer rag, or an evening rag. So it's linked in a much more visceral and classical way, poetically, culturally, and otherwise.
yes. Whereas on the other side of the southern hemisphere, when you talk about countries that are in the northern hemisphere, like Europe and North America and Russia, all they interpret winter. The modality is the snow and the snowman and these festivals which are linked to that particular aspect of that month. So,
With
but I think
Vinita,
yes,
it's very interesting that all your references are Western most of the time. You talk about plum cake and fireplace, and
well, I
very, very
completely
textbookish.
trust me. I trained my mind to do this for Fiona's sake. I didn't want to.
Oh, I
I didn't
see.
want this. Yes, and of course, it all comes also from my days with Enid Blyton when I was 8 or 9 years old. Too much of Enid
That's
Blyton.
what I thought. And
But yes,
Nathan Boone.
I didn't want to keep this only related to India, because when we talk about winter in India, I think it would be unrelatable for a person in the UK to,
Quite
really
interesting. It's very interesting.
believe me, because in India, except for the northern India, which is the Himalayas, like Leh is perhaps it records the lowest temperatures in any part of the world, any inhabited part of the world. It's really really severely cold. It's as cold as Minneapolis in America, Minnesota, whatever.
There's
So
a particular place in Leh called Dras, which
Dras
is
is
the
extremely cold.
second coldest place in the world which is inhabited.
Correct. Yes.
I have a
Yes,
poem.
and I know you have a poem on Kargil, Sudeep, but I don't think it's related to this
No, no,
broadcast.
Dras.
So, Dras, I remember.
Kargil,
I
I'm
know.
never going to read, and Kargil, I'm never going to read because Abhay K has put a ban on it. But Dras, I'll read.
Okay, yes, please do.
Dras, I'll read. It's from the same book. It's from the book called Ladakh,
Okay.
and I mean, all the poems in this book are based in Ladakh in one way or the other. So
Yes.
Dras, which was also the flashpoint. That's where the Indian army was stationed, even though the war was fought in Kargil. Dras was the base station. At world's second coldest inhabited town, early signs of change. Kashmir's walnut woodwork, serif hand script, willow glowing in linseed oil gradually give way, lay words, to monastic metrics, graphics, a predominance of white highlighting sharply the definiteness of primaries. Red, yellow, blue, red, green, violet, clothed in masonry, mud, linen, and silk, Cylindrical wheels rotate from left to right. Palm prints, prayer, and paint mix. Radiant forms, holy, right-angled, doors, windows, stepped edges, spawning squares, slow shaping, the omnipotent winter flutters.
Lovely, lovely. That was beautifully narrated, beautifully written too. Beautiful. Thank you, Sudeep. Would you like to read something for us, Abhay? Would you like to read something for us?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll maybe a final Kalidas and you
Okay.
know.
All right.
Read your poems. Read your poems.
Uh, uh, just a second. So
Sure.
selected. Yeah.
What about that Moody Blues song?
Lovers.
Nights at, yeah.
Lovers overcome the winter's chill, pressing their heads against their beloved's bosom, glowing with ochre saffron hue, lying in each other's embrace at their youth's height, the golden age to relish love's delight. The young maidens with slender waists, bearing the burden of their heavy hips and full bosom, take slow steps but overcome love's stress as soon as they cast off the night's clothes for the day. In dawn's light, women scan their bodies for the love bites, nail marks, touch their bitten soft lips like fresh leaves. Blushing, they put makeup on their lotus faces. I think winter is also about love. You know, the I think the among Ritu Samhar, frost and winters are the two seasons which are full of love making. So, uh, so I guess Kalidas had, I think, kept winter especially uh, for intense love, and which shows in his poems.
Abhay, please
What
tell our
about
viewers.
read your poems? Read some of your own poems.
Uh, I don't have it them. I don't have them with me. Sorry, and so, but I mean, I do have some. I've written about Saint Petersburg actually, and also Moscow
Okay. Yeah.
in my yeah. But I don't remember them by heart, and I don't have the book with me at the moment. So
Okay.
I'll leave you with this Kalidas poem.
Tell us
Which
about
is
your. Tell us about your. I think you have a book of translations of Kalidas coming out soon. Let's just
yes,
hear about it.
Meghdut is. Uh, I mean, it all happened in March that I happened to read a poem called "Lockdown" by Simon Armitage, and then
Yeah.
I had always wanted to read Meghdut in original Sanskrit, and this poem sort of triggered me to immediately look at the original Sanskrit text, and then I mean, I it was a long time dream, so I started translating it, and thankfully, the Bloomsbury has accepted to publish it this year sometime.
Congratulations.
So
Wonderful.
it's and some of these translations, excerpts appear in this book called Great Indian, this anthology which has just come out, Great Indian,
Yes.
the Bloomsbury Book of Great Indian Love Poems.
Yeah.
So also excerpts of translations which I was reading from Ritu Samhar, Six Seasons of Kalidas. So this is, uh, a fascinating journey for me. The lockdown has been a fascinating journey for me, and uh, particularly reading the works and translating the works of Kalidas, the two short poems, Meghdut and Ritu Samhar.
That's extraordinary because I know for a fact that you are a Sanskritist and you're fluent in Sanskrit, and who better to translate Kalidas but you, Abhay? So we are all
No,
looking
yeah,
forward to
I mean,
that.
I think it's a. I mean, I have gone through several translations of Kalidas, but I guess it's the first time that a poet is translating Kalidas. So that,
Oh,
I guess,
wonderful.
makes all the difference.
Oh, yes, completely.
Mm.
Fiona,
Thank you.
would you like to? Yes, thank you, Abhay. Thank you very much. Fiona, would you like to share something with us now?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
I know that we were going to finish by talking about winter in different places, but there's also winter in different times in your own life. So this is Carol. Words make a wavering line in snow. You follow them, though sometimes you can't see they'll lead anywhere, and often they don't lead somewhere. But still you feel you must follow, hearing remembered voices speaking long ago when you could not resist them, being lost in the drifting world. You were a child and voices sounded in the dark, far away and high above you. Those giants.
I'm sorry we lost the last few lines, Fiona. May I request you to read just the last stanza again, please? The last 4 or 5 lines. You froze there.
Did I?
Yes.
Not good, is it? I don't know why it's doing that.
It's probably the bandwidth issues, yeah, speeds.
I think it's happened again.
Right. That should be better. For some reason, it jumped onto the wrong bandwidth. I mean,
Yeah,
we have two competing servers. I don't know.
I see.
Remembered voices speaking long ago when you could not resist them, being lost in the drifting in the dark, far away and high above you. Those giants whose rooms and gardens are buried now in the snow dark.
Thank you. That was beautiful. And it resonated with me in particular because for me, winter has always been in my poetry as a metaphor for something bleak, something that's old, something that's been sort of tied up and not looked at. So I completely understand that metaphor of winter in this poem that you just read out. Sudeep, can we have a last one from you and then we'll conclude?
Okay. So this, since everybody's talking about, since two of us, yes, you're in Bombay and winter is almost non-existent, and Abhay is
Yes.
in Madagascar where there's no winter. So I spent 5 years in Bangladesh where there is also very similarly no winter.
Right.
But because their national language is Bengali, Bangla, poets like Tagore and so on are very, very popular. And this is a poem written for a friend of mine who's a wonderful, wonderful singer. And she's actually translated this poem into Bengali, has sung it in Bengali, which is beautiful when she sings it. But I'll read the original English. And Shuli is a particular flower which has got these
Yes.
little florets, so white petals with this short,
Orange stem.
redolent orange stem. Yeah.
It's the harsingar in Hindi and it's called harsingar
Yes,
also.
Harsingar in Hindi, yeah, in Sanskrit, and it's used. People before a concert or something, they'll wear it on their hair or around the wrist. It just looks beautiful. It looks partly also like jasmine, but it leaves a stain. You see, so it's romantic and it's full of possibilities.
Implications, yes.
Shuli. Shuli flowers, slow warmed in your clenched fists, drenched in morning dew, greet me with the scent of your soft palm, fingers, and heartstrings. I weave these tiny flowers petal by petal, threading their stamen filament by filament into a delicate garland, inking a love song score in handwritten script. Unknown to me, you wear these florets in your silk raven hair and around your slender wrists, singing my new song, Tagore as your witness, tonight and every night.
Beautiful. That was lyric poetry at its best, I would say. That was gorgeous.
Thank
Really
you.
beautiful. So first of all, thank you everyone for being here and sharing your wonderful, marvelous winter poems with us, and not just about winter, but about so many other things evocative of that season, as well as even if we depart from the theme, there's so much else that is conveyed through your poetry. So it just all ties in so beautifully. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Sudeep, and thank you, Abhay. Before I end, I would like to read a poem by Mark Strand, which is titled Lines for Winter. For Ross Krauss. Tell yourself as it gets cold and grey falls from the air that you will go on, walking, hearing the same tune no matter where you find yourself. Inside the dome of dark or under the cracking white of the moon's gaze in a valley of snow. Tonight, as it gets cold, tell yourself what you know, which is nothing but the tune your bones play as you keep going. And you will be able for once to lie down under the small fire of winter stars. And if it happens that you cannot go on or turn back, and you find yourself where you will be at the end, tell yourself in that final flowing of cold through your limbs that you love what you are. I think it's an extremely compassionate, empathetic
Beautiful.
poem by Mark Strand. Absolutely beautiful. He weaves in winter with so many emotions. So I think we've almost reached the end of our session. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure, and I hope the viewers have also taken in some warmth, although we've been talking about winter. It's been great to be talking to all of you and hearing your poetry. Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.